Burgess & Bolton's weekly wrap-up.
Hello, Ben.
Hi, Jeremy. Jeremy Friday.
Happy Friday to you too. Are you well?
Yeah, not too bad. We've been in tier 2 for a week here in London. So some freedoms have been curtailed. It's not too noticeable, to be honest.
Yeah, I've seen as part of that, you've had to take down all your pictures, I see, in the background.
There's been a bit of reorganisation. Some pictures will appear, but that is being just under consideration by the committee here at the moment.
Yeah. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Burgess & Bolton's weekly wrap-up. This week, so we've got a bit of news, but then our main focus is on the feature at Lloyd's and Blueprint 2, which is going to come out in a couple of weeks' time. Bonfire Night, 5th of November, that's the date. So we're going to just kind of recap on the initiative, just talk a little bit about what it was designed to achieve in its original state, and then hopefully pose a few questions that will be answered in a couple of weeks' time. So that's going to be our focus for this week. So let's move things on a bit. So news, Ben, I've got some news to share with you. And this is it's up-to-date news. It's from 2018. So I was in the office just reading around, throwing some stuff away, and I found this publication. This is from summer 2018, Preparing for a Pandemic.
God, I hope that doesn't happen.
I know. Imagine if that happened. So this article was written by a chap called Gary Booth.
Yeah, I know Gary well. Good man.
Yeah, we should get in touch with him and see what's going to happen in a couple of years' time.
Yep.
But it says here 1918, a year for insurers to remember. And it's quite frightening, some of the stuff that he predicts a couple of years ago. Economic activity dropping, disrupted by quarantine measures, travel restrictions and closure of borders. It's also worth remembering that unlike natural catastrophes, which are short-lived, pandemics last for several months, if not several years, in waves.
Wow,
so there you go. What a guy, Gary Booth.
He's like Gary the Soothsayer, isn't he? That's incredible. I wish I'd written that.
Yeah,
we'll have to get Gary on because it's good. It's very accurate. Yeah, I had a quick read of it. It's and it also, of course, says, that maybe we could have had products that were ready for this and could have been thinking about it much more. But everything's hindsight, of course, isn't it? But wow, maybe we should look through some other back issues of reactions to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's move things on because we've got a lot to cover in this section where we're going to be reviewing kind of the feature at Lloyd's, the Blueprint 1, and then looking forward to the next release. So to kick things off, I thought, Ben, if we play the clip from the original launch of the Blueprint, and that gives us a good indication of what it was hoping to achieve. A bit of context, and this clip is just some of the CEOs and leaders in the market just talking about their reaction to the Blueprint and what they would like from it. So here we go.
The future at Lloyd's is focused on the right priorities, being designed by the market for the benefit of our clients. A more efficient and more innovative Lloyd's will allow all of us to deliver even greater value to our clients.
The Lloyd's marketplace is fundamentally about outstanding people, underwriting and services for its customers. How this will benefit Lloyd's customers is through a faster placement process, a faster claims service and ultimately lower cost premiums to our customers.
I think our customers will benefit from speed, the ability to get decisions done faster. I think they'll benefit also from accuracy of information, so there's less rework, less comeback for more queries. And I think as costs come down, they'll get a better value product.
So the idea is that to combine the best of Lloyd's heritage, its closeness to risks, its innovation approach, its ability to take very unusual risk, and combine that with the future by leveraging technology and significantly improving efficiency.
The future at Lloyd's is consistent with our own strategy, ensuring we are focused on the needs of our clients. We are providing data-driven advisory services, making it a priority to attract and retain the best expert talent and utilizing technology to improve the placement process.
Lloyd's will successfully execute on this plan because all of the fundamental ingredients are there. We have the technology, we know the process change we want to make, we have a plan that's manageable and achievable. But fundamentally, we have a marketplace made up of people who really want to deliver this change in order to enable the future at Lloyd's.
It's very important to have the buy-in of various stakeholders, and this is going to be challenging because everybody has to adapt his or her behavior. Brokers have to become more efficient, underwriters have to become more disciplined, technology and execution has to become more reliable, so everybody has to contribute.
Building a strong modernization plan in the form of the blueprint is a good start. Now, it requires successful execution. We're optimistic where this will lead. We're seeing widespread market support as Lloyd's has engaged many stakeholders and responded to their feedback throughout this process.
I know that there'll be a lot of energy put into execution and implementation. The challenge for Lloyd's in the market will be to sustain that over the many years it'll take to deliver the technological improvements that are required. It's going to require persistence and patience. But if as a market we work together, involving Lloyd's, involving brokers, involving underwriters, I'm pretty convinced we'll be able to deliver something good over time.
We have a wonderful legacy to honour and safeguard, and it's important we do that. But we really do have to seize this opportunity, make Lloyd's fit for purpose.
A bit of a recap there, just from the launch of Blueprint One, kind of what it was all about. And I think you're going to give us a bit more context, Ben.
Yeah, so that's great because it just gives you some of the kind of optimistic feeling that was around at the time from some of the leaders in the market. Just for those that have forgotten Blueprint, when it was initially launched, Bruce Carnegie Brown really set out the stall. I think it's really mainly John Neal's project now in terms of ownership, but the stall was set out for Lloyd's, I think, overall. And there were a couple of key points, I think, before we go into what we think about Blueprint 2 and what the questions might be. But efficiency clearly was essential for survival and growth in the market. And I think Bruce Carnegie Brown had a couple of really simple ideas here, and there's an article that we had a slide for, but which you can chuck up, but which is a good one to read. But basically, he talks about a few things. One is that there's it's essential and it will be challenging, but there's the actual digitization of data is the critical thing, and it's a simple notion really, which is that you just don't re-key in things once you digitize the market, and that's one of its major inefficiencies, as I suspect everybody working in the market knows. The other thing I think it's worth recalling about what he said at the time was that there shouldn't be a single solution. This isn't, this is to embrace a world of technology in which there are all sorts of inputs to the market. So it wasn't just a Lloyd's thing. So then we move on a bit from Bruce Carnegie Brown's original thing, and Blueprint gets launched, and it's launched on the 30th of September 2019. So going through a pandemic, that does feel like a really long time ago, but actually it's not really, in a sense. So at that stage there were 6 solutions, and those 6 solutions really revolved around a risk exchange, complex risk exchange, syndicate in a box, claims, and a capital solution, among others. I think that's most of them. And I think the most eye-catching one at that time was risk exchange, and that seemed to. We did a piece of research and had an event at the time, and most people were really kind of captured and interested in risk exchange. And it's interesting because we had Bobby a few weeks ago. I think we've got a clip of him talking about it from a technological and in fact a kind of US perspective, which if we just play that now, we can get a bit of a sense of how he feels about it.
Yeah, so this is a clip from a session that we ran probably a couple of months ago now with Bobby Turan, and he was talking about risk exchange from his point of view. So here's the clip.
I don't know for sure that it's going to be diminished in the way that a lot of people think. But I do think it's going to evolve. And I think that Lloyd's would be well served to do everything it can to be sort of a vanguard of change rather than a follower of change. And I think future at Lloyd's is a good step in the right direction. Risk exchange, the concept of trying to digitize and standardize some of the more standard covers that end up getting placed into the market completely makes sense to me. I think like anything tech driven, you have to try a handful of things and expect that most of them will fail. But that hopefully the one or two that end up working more than offset the losses. That come from the unsuccessful attempts. But I think that's a mentality thing too, because I think there is certainly at the executive level oftentimes a fear of failure. I don't want to invest. Certainly, these are big public companies. Like I get it. They don't want to invest shareholder money. Technology is expensive. It's difficult to implement. It's slow. It requires several different types of expertise, which may not exist in-house. So you have to go get all this, mobilize your troops, invest money, only to have the majority of it fail. I mean, I think most executives are going to sort of go the other way if that's the options that they're faced. So, which is why I think that the institution of Lloyd's saying, marketplace, our Lloyd's marketplace and the resultant London marketplace that surrounds it. Here are a few initiatives that we really want to stand behind. I think those initiatives are incredibly important.
Really good clip there. Just how it's viewed from the US, but also how important it is that Lloyd's was taking the initiative and as he said, was the vanguard of a change at that point.
Yeah.
So
people are still talking about that, and that's important. I think he also refers to something that is rather important to remember about Blueprint is, unlike many of the other initiatives which have been funded by the market, the Lloyd's is owned by Lloyd's. So it is a project that's entirely under Lloyd's Corporation's control, as I understand it. So £300 million of senior debt was raised. That's not market money. So you can see that this is something that Lloyd's is doing, as Bobby points out there. And also, though, of course, that's a big risk because clearly, he's coming from this, and I don't think any of us would not know this, is that technologies, don't always, most fail. And so you have to go through that expensive process and difficult process to get to the place you want to be. So there's no question this is not still a challenging project. So just bringing it up to date before we get into Blueprint 2. So the Blueprint update came out, I think, in August, maybe slightly earlier. But the interesting thing about this is that we seem to have morphed without clear, explicit statements into something that is somewhat different, I think, from that original vision. And this is why we're really talking about Blueprint 2 today, because this has come up at the Tin Claims Conference a few weeks ago, and it will be discussed going forward. And, in the current situation in the global insurance market, this is pretty fundamental stuff. So the things that were different about the Blueprint update were, risk exchange is not mentioned very much. Certainly the volume risk exchange, business. Complex risk exchange is still there. Really, the emphasis now is on PPL, which clearly has had a boost because of the pandemic. Claims, this is kind of my personal take from reading it, and I think it was somewhat reflected in comments made at the conference, which was that not as much has happened as could have happened. So there was a call for more action, less words. So there are some things happening. Gemini, I believe through Advent, has just been launched, which is an expert system. But these seem to be not, going back to Bruce Carnegie Brown's vision, these seem to me to be incremental small changes at the edges. They're not the fundamental things that we were expecting. And there is, in the delegated authority space, which is still on the, clearly on the agenda, one of the three areas that they're talking about, placement claims and so on, is the data manager, DASATs, and the contract manager system. So those are seeming to be going on. So the delegated authority space does look like stuff happening, but in other places it feels like a lot has been pared back. And the big question is, where did risk exchange go? Because that was such a big idea and was captivating everybody.
Yeah, I think so. And it was that vision, if you just reflect back to that opening video where you had those CEOs, supporting it, and people being excited by it. I think it was that vision statement by Bruce Carnegie Brown that said, we are going to do this. It's going to be a digital marketplace, and these are the steps we're going to do. And that did invigorate.
But to be fair, though, Jeremy, there was some reading between the lines, and in there were some inferred warnings, I think, from all of those execs, particularly Oliver Butt from Allianz. They're talking about the execution of this.
Yeah.
But certainly, the Sheila Cameron, they're talking about, we will execute this. So there is, this is tough. Nobody's saying it's not easy, but nobody's saying it's easy. Pandemic definitely won't have helped. But in some ways, a pandemic has helped this. It has accelerated a lot of this stuff. So, it's kind of interesting what's going to happen next.
Definitely. We've got a slide about the progress to date. We're going to have a quick.
Yeah. So just very briefly, this is the statement that's been made, and then we can get into Blueprint 2. But these are the things that have been achieved in 2020. So this is really, given when it was originally launched, the first kind of deliverables, as it were. So they've cut the time it takes to pay claims through the updating of Lloyd's Claims Scheme, but they don't say how much time has been cut. And I imagine that's because it's not a big difference. It's not being noticed. I certainly haven't seen anything on this in any of our research, right? So it might be good. It might have been another incremental improvement, but it's not the big thing that we're looking for. Submission quotes, APIs using PPL. No doubt PPL has moved on. Would have done it. It was mandated, and that was very fortunate for the market that people were up and running, and that had been pushed because it would have been a difficult situation without that. And obviously, you've got white space coming into that. So that feels, in a way, that feels a healthy space. But it's, is it still back to the achievements of Blueprint, or is it just that it's pretty obvious that everybody wants to get onto trading systems now? Virtual underwriting room, building a pilot. I don't know what's happening with that. That just seems to be, that I've not heard. I've tried to read as to what that is. I still don't understand it. I don't think either of us understand what that is and what it's going to be. Syndicates in a box. Key has come on board from Brit. So that's, I don't think that was one of the things that I would have envisaged as being part of the original Blueprint, though. Key is something that has been developed as a lead follow model, which were happening anyway. And then something about the design approach has changed, which could mean anything.
Yeah. So we've just been talking about this week, and what we're looking forward to, I think, in the Blueprint 2 will be perhaps some more detail around the deliverables and the time frame, and some transparency around costs and timeframes and that type of thing. So we've put together 6 questions that we'd like to see answered. They're fairly straightforward questions. So here's the first one, Ben. So I think it comes back to our opening piece from Bruce Carnegie Brown. Is the ambition and the dedication to change still there? That's our first question.
Oh, really important question. Look, this is about those having all those leaders on board. It's having all the big insurers on board. It has to have confidence, and it has to have belief, and it has to have buy-in, and it has to have, of course, it has to have execution as well. But does it feel like the ambition and dedication to change is there? My personal opinion is it feels a bit flat at the moment. So I would expect and hope that Blueprint 2 will be about reinvigorating this. But whether it is or not, I don't know.
Yeah. Our second question would be, so how is the trading environment going to change and be supported post-COVID? I guess that's touching on the kind of PPL white space conversation we had.
Yes, I think this is a really important question. The one thing that has maybe not only because of, or clearly not only because of the Future at Lloyd's program and Blueprint, is that electronic trading has taken a leap forward, and it's not going to stop. You also have PPL in competition with Whitespace, and I guess you're going to get others. Bobby's Turan's company, for example, Pathpoint is another, has a very good trading system for ENS business into the market, and there'll be more of those, and that competition will probably improve things. I think I would sort of agree with that. So, but this trading environment is really important because it's central, I think, to everything that happens once you get everything going. And the Lloyds have said that the complex risk exchange, which they're still talking about as being part of PPL, will link very closely into the claims development. But the question then is, because remember what this is a Lloyd's program, £300 million behind it, and it's Lloyd's thing. But if it's going to go the way I think it is going, which is its kind of competition is just sorting it out, then is that something that can be managed in a kind of command and control way by Lloyd's, or is it just that they are there to facilitate the competition and make sure everything is done and licensed properly? I don't know. I feel a bit like that should be clear, that path forward.
Yeah.
And Lloyd's role in it, I suppose. I mean, they do license these, so there's only 2 licensed one at the moment, which is Whitespace and PPL. But I suspect they might let more in.
Yeah. We shall see. So that's our second question. Third question. So what are going to be the deliverables and what is the time frame? I mean, a fairly simple question, you would have thought. Yeah,
and I don't think that the communications on this, clearly it's their project, they could do what they like, but I do really think it's be so valuable to give hard and clear deliverables, because a lot of the phrasing of the things that are happening, people don't understand. Even people in the market don't understand what a lot of these things are. These are new descriptors. I had to sort of look up the Advent system, Gemini, to check what that was. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, but I was trying to, I think it should be just clear. It feels to me like it's a bit like saying, hey, here's all these things that we've done, but it's not clearly transparent about what Bobby was talking about. I'd like them to say, well, we had a few failures, things that didn't work, and invite the market in to talk about how they could have helped. At the moment, it doesn't feel like the market is as involved as they promised it would be.
Yeah.
And timeline is key. Sorry, just one further thing. Sorry, Jeremy. Timeline is absolutely key because I think Lee Elliston at the conference the other week made the point that if you don't deliver soon and really deliver and show the big boys that you are delivering, all of those leaders who were on that original video will be getting on with it themselves. Yeah.
And I think, Lee was saying about that fragmentation piece during the Future at Lloyd's in the claims environment talk. So, fourth question, what is happening with risk exchange? That's, again, a fundamental, straightforward.
Yeah, no, I've got one big issue here, which is if it was such a big thing originally, the volume risk exchange, please explain why it's not there now and if it is ever going to be there. Because I just think everybody I've spoken to and engaged with said that risk exchange was potentially a good idea. I know brokers wanted to understand exactly what it was and it wasn't cutting them out, and it was, but But I still think that generally speaking, it was seen as a positive move, potentially, and something that was achievable. But if it's not now, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but it would be good to know why and what this complex risk exchange is going to be. I think if it's just an iteration of, and it morphs into just, well, it's just basically PPL, then that seems to me to be not a success. It's not a bad thing.
No.
It's not a success against Blueprint.
No, and it's a missed opportunity, I think, because I think, we'll probably touch on this in a couple of weeks' time, but I think everybody, especially I've talked to as well, said, as you said, this is achievable. The technology's there. It's, you could really deliver something and show the market.
And I think it's to, I think Bobby Turan again, just referencing all of our guests over the last few weeks, but Bobby did say about, he felt that Lloyd's ought to be at the vanguard of change. And I think that's what we saw in the video at the beginning. And what John Neal has said is, and that's my question is, if you don't have risk exchange in this Blueprint 2, what is, why is Lloyd's at the vanguard of change? Well, if it's stuff that's back office type administrative stuff, that's not the vanguard of change. A global platform, technology platform for distribution via Lloyd's would be something bigger, much bigger. It's a much bigger idea. But if that's gone, then it's gone. We'll find out.
Yeah. Next question, is claims going to be at the centre? And if so, what's the detailed plan for deliverables? Yeah. It picks up on the themes that were raised at the conference a couple of weeks ago. It comes back to that communication piece. We ran a poll, if you remember, Ben, where we asked the audience at that conference, I think we had 300 people on the thing, whether they thought they had enough information about the future at Lloyd's and Blueprint, and it was a resounding either no or could know more, I suppose, was
that was really disappointing. And that's an audience that is absolutely should be in the know about claims and what Lloyd's is doing on claims. I think claims will be central. I think it will be really important. I think they've certainly cottoned on to this. I really want to see, though, what the detailed plan is and what the deliverables are. I don't think, my view is that there are clear and easy deliverables in claims for Lloyd's that could put them head and shoulders above other markets in the world. And I just, again, my view, I know it's reflected, I know other people feel this too, is that the things that they could do that would and they should do, whether they will do, big question. Claims right now in the middle of the pandemic, and given what's been happening, would be a fantastic big win for the market. And it would, it maybe you could say risk exchange wasn't really the thing, but claims would be a really big win.
Yeah.
And it would help the customer, right? Where's the customer gone in all of this?
Yeah. So our final question: how much has been spent so far, and what has been delivered from that money? It's a lot of money, isn't it? 300 million.
Yes, and they don't have to tell us. They certainly don't have to tell you and me, but they might have to. It might be sensible to say what, in a realistic way. They've got to be constructive. As Bobby again said, it is tough. Not everything works, but people understand that, I think. But against what's being delivered, where has there been bang for buck? I suppose would be my question, because we can all learn from this. I don't think this is us having a pop at Lloyd's and whether they've wasted money again, but it's basically saying if there were bangs for buck in the trading area, great. If there's bangs for buck in the back office of DA delegated authority, great. And if there's none in the another space, then good. We will say that's a really interesting thing that we've all learned. That's still a thing that needs to be resolved.
Yeah. So that's those are our 6 questions, and they're going to be the themes that will hang our show off for the next couple of weeks once the Blueprint has come out, and we'll obviously have a chance to read it and digest it and come back and give thoughts and analysis.
Will it be a Catherine Wheel or a damp squib?
That's it. Only time will tell.
Not long.
Good. Right, thanks for that, Ben. It was interesting setting it all up. So let's wrap up this week's with what you're doing this weekend. I'm actually doing something. I'm going on holiday.
Oh.
So in a couple of hours, I'm leaving my house and going to another place.
You've made several attempts at this, so it's good to know that it's actually happening.
Yeah, I know. I'm waiting for the phone call from Track and Trace to say I've been in contact with someone. I need to stay at home for 14 days. But so far, so good. Yeah, I feel a bit like the guy off Goodfellas. You know, the end scene in Goodfellas where he's making the spaghetti sauce and he's also delivering the cocaine. I'm doing that. I'm like, I've got to take the dog. I've got to take the dog to the thing. I've got to pack the thing. I've got to pack the car. It's like, oh.
It's not worth it, you see. Now we're not used to going on holiday, you see. We can't, it's an effort to leave the office, isn't it, in the bedroom now.
Yeah, that's it. Are you doing anything?
I'm going cycling on Sunday, so that's up to London to look at how quiet it is again. And then I don't know, I'm hoping next week there's a thing I've been talking about with people, loophole lunches. Because in the there's a loophole that the government has allowed, which is that if you have a business lunch, you're allowed to have even in a tier 2 scenario in London, you can have a lunch with. And the reason for that is that they say that otherwise it's a constraint on business growth certainly for businesses like yours and mine, where we can't easily meet in offices now. So they're saying, so lunch is back.
We're back. We're having lunch. Good.
Loophole lunches, yeah. I've organised one.
I like that.
Next week. So anyone else want to do it? Right in.
That's it. We'll do it live from a restaurant.
Yeah.
One time.
We should. Yeah. Yeah, we should. Be great. Yeah, it'd be brilliant. Well, have a great holiday.
Yeah, thanks. So we're not here next week, but we're back the week after, where again. Yeah, Mike, Loophole Lunches, I'm in. So that's good.
Yeah, nice.
Thanks, Alison, for that. So we're back after the blueprint on the 6th. So we'll see you all then. Thanks very much, Ben.
Yeah.
See you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Burgess and Bolton's Weekly Wrap-Up.